Hello and welcome to the Food Fight podcast from EIT Food, a show exploring the biggest challenges in our food system and the innovators dedicated to solving them. I'm your host, Matt Eastland, and this week we're diving into one of EIT Food's core missions, creating healthier lives through food. Our goal is simple but ambitious: improving quality of life by increasing the uptake of balanced, sustainable and healthy diets. And this mission took centre stage at NextBite 2025 in Brussels earlier this year. The event brought together a remarkable concentration of breakthrough technologies, from alternative proteins to smart labels and personalised nutrition. Innovation is accelerating fast, and with so much happening at once, it's not always obvious where to look first. So we set out to discover what stood out to attendees themselves, asking which innovations captured their excitement and why. We began with Pericles and Dean from the Protein Diversification Academy.
It's, of course, alternative proteins. And the reason is that it really is at the intersection of so many of the most pressing global and European problems, from antibiotic resistance to healthier foods, to land use, to greenhouse gas emissions, which are enormous in animal agriculture. And alternative proteins can really tackle all of those and improve our agriculture system, improve our health, improve life for the animals, out of which like 80 billion are killed every year for food, including just land animals. So alternative proteins can play a part in all of that. So no matter which reason resonates the most with you, working on alternative proteins ultimately tackles all of them.
Yeah, and I will just add that there has been, several approaches, several interventions have been suggested throughout the years. And I guess alternative proteins might be the right solution because they are complex. It's an incredible complex field, and we need complex solutions, complex, approaches to the complex challenges that we're facing. So I guess it's really the most interesting area to focus on at the moment. I might be a little bit biased here, but I guess the whole field of cellular agriculture and specifically cell-cultivated products, so not only meat, but also seafoods, and so on, is really, really exciting at the moment. And sometimes a little bit skeptical because the technology is such an incredible, element there. It's super sophisticated. And sometimes just a little bit skeptical because what they make is just burgers or just nuggets, which are very simple, actually, products. But we can also see a lot of startups think about Vow, thinking about also a lot of research happening in Europe in academia. And they're really creating super exciting products from foie gras to cultivated sea bass.
Olivier Tomat from Genopol, a research centre focused on genomics and biotechnologies, shared his nuanced view on some of the different areas of interest in the innovation fields.
The thing is, we've got a great generation of scientists. We've got a great generation of entrepreneurs. We're very well placed as Europe, as a geography, to sort of carry that sort of burden. So I'm really into, of course, everybody's into precision fermentation, for example, because precision fermentation is sort of related to an old technology, so we sort of know the in and outs of that. But I'm really willing to push forward newer technologies as well. So cultivated meat, which is sort of becoming taboo in that continent, is something I'm really keen on, and we've got very great entrepreneurs around that. But also something even sort of more nascent, like molecular farming is a great example, right? It's really at the dawn of things. We're really at the dawn of things. A lot of very great and very interesting people are working on that. Do we sort of and I think that's probably why EIT and that sort of program exists. Do we push the envelope through that, gathering corporates, investors, entrepreneurs, scientists to sort of see where it goes? Yeah, I would advocate for that, yeah.
New technologies are accelerating forward at an exciting rate, but not all the answers emerge from the laboratory. Sometimes the solutions we're looking for already exist in nature. Here is Denise Fitchechoglu, co-founder and CEO of Wonderfish, which looks at bringing more seaweed into the food system.
I've just come back from Anuga, which is the largest food and beverage trade show in the world. And what excited me the most there was actually to see more hybrids coming up and being accepted by industry players. And the openness and the curiosity about the next generation of ingredients. That's obviously a huge thing for us as a seaweed company. We've been around for a couple of years, And when we started, there was very little interest in seaweed ingredients or seaweed-based products. And this has shifted completely. Like with the trend to move to more clean label formulations, there's suddenly also an interest to new ingredients. And furthermore, seeing supply chains collapsing or being at risk, at least flavors that we are used to at land not really being available to us anymore. Suddenly, the attention shifts to the ocean. And so for us, it was a great way to see that there's a new openness for new ingredients and hybrids.
From cellular agriculture and molecular farming to new ingredients and hybrids, perhaps the most exciting developments are not coming from just one place, but many.
As technology management expert, I would rather say that the excitement comes from the diversity. So the fact that we live in an age when you see such a broad portfolio of technologies, that consumers and producers have so many fascinating options to develop or embark on a consumption journey. This is what matters most to me. So, of course, there are certain technologies which are maybe overly hyped nowadays. Some are on the downward slope of the hype, but at the same time, for example, when you think about resilience and climate change aspects of agriculture, I think this is very timely that's where AIT Food is focusing. And also the promise of biotech and the potential of leveraging all of the laboratory experience, to go beyond labs, to start commercializing innovations and use the economic potential of the sector. This is what I would say is really promising.
That was Krzysztof Klinczewicz from the University of Warsaw. We asked food innovation expert Zagorka Blazewska where the industry needs to move next to ensure more people can access nutritious diets.
Personalized diets are a necessity for the future because every organism needs some specificness how to handle the future. In general, protein diversification is also one of the topics that we need to consider very carefully, but not avoiding protein sources from real meat eaters. So reducing the diets, personalized nutrition, so we can have a benefit for healthier lives and, let's say, healthy aging in the future. Reduction of sugar, reduction of salt, a reduction of fatty acids is also a need for the future to be resolved. Why? Because in terms of non-communicable diseases that are very important topic and very urgent topic, especially for cardiovascular diseases, obesity, that it's in high prevalence in the future to come, we need to think about reducing or reformulating recipes and products and reducing those sugar, salts, and other ingredients that could influence the product or the purpose for it in order to be healthier in the future and live sustainable life.
One thing which Dean from the Protein Diversification Academy pointed out was that many of these innovations share a common struggle.
I would just point out a challenge here that in Europe, especially, we need a lot more scale-up infrastructure because a lot of those startups are now reaching the phase where they need to scale up, and that's very risky for private investors. And we really want to see more funding from governments, from public sources going into de-risking those solutions. So I think, while I agree with what Perikles said, I think we want to see an acceleration of the field through scale-up funding.
Another challenge, of course, is ensuring that these new processes and products are actually adopted in order for them to reach people's plates. Education plays a central role in making that happen.
You're really touching an important area for us because we as Academy, or the Protein Diversification Academy, we just focus on education actually. And we were super disappointed actually to see a gap in education in this field. Even within AIT Food, there were no courses, anything about education in alternative proteins and future of foods. And that's why basically we decided to, let's say, step up and try to make something to fill this gap. And we see a lot of curiosity because what happens is even at, let's say, conventional, let's say, academy universities, master students graduate and they have no knowledge about, for instance, cultivated meat or how do you make plant-based products in most of the cases. And so we see a lot of interest to, let's say, have more education on this topic. For instance, in our last course, we got for only 30 seats more than 340 applicants. So it was a really, really big demand. And what makes them excited is really not only to talk about the technical challenges or the technology behind that, but also have a comprehensive approach to education. So think about social impacts, think about consumer acceptance, the sensory of these products. And that's, I think, is really an incredible white space that we need to fill as much as possible.
And just in terms of numbers, I guess like there's going to be over 10 million jobs globally in alternative proteins in 2050. So the gap is really big. And in terms of Germany, for instance, there's reports from a consultancy group, Systemic, that there's going to be 250,000 new jobs in alternative proteins just in Germany. So we really believe that not enough is being done to train the future workforce. And we think that this needs to be happening now. And that's why we're doing what we're doing with the Protein Diversification Academy.
Food companies wield enormous influence over what ultimately ends up on our plates, but consumers still vote with their wallets. When it comes to improving dietary habits, responsibility is often passed back and forth between the industry and the public. So we asked attendees where they believe that responsibility truly lies, and what role the industry should play in expanding access to healthier foods. Here's what Denise had to say.
I don't want to blame anyone here. I think if you go to the supermarket and start reading the labels of the products that are available to us actively, and questioning the ingredients that are in there, you pretty much notice that the whole industry is messed up. And that's because we have built a system that makes it also easy and incentivizes them, obviously, to use the resources we are currently using. At the same time, we educated the consumers that food's supposed to be cheap. So it's obviously the whole system is messed up, but I think the producers have the biggest influence on it. I know they have all the targets, the revenue targets, etc., and change, even if they announce it publicly on their website, needs to trickle down to every employee, and they also need to be given the power to actually change something, right? So if we are talking to new product developers, they have a very clear guideline of what they're actually allowed to exchange or not. And I think being a bit more brave in that part of the food system is really needed. And also, I know it sounds a bit idealistic, but I don't think we can continue the system in the sense of how we're profiting of it like we're doing now. And we really need to look at, okay, we maybe need to think about postponing the revenue, kind of, So maybe we're not going to have necessarily a highly profitable product that we're used to in the industry today or tomorrow, but probably in the next, let's say, 2 to 3 years. And that's a mindset shift that needs to happen.
Christoph, who works as an activity lead at EIT Food's Consumer Engagement Labs, viewed the responsibility as shared, explaining that it's through collaboration between all layers of the food system that will drive meaningful change.
Maybe the easiest explanation would probably somehow refer to EIT Food projects that we implement. It's called Consumer Engagement Labs, and we bring together groups of consumers and food producers so that they co-create, they jointly work on discovering consumer needs and wants, and then designing specific products. And now we've been working with, I think, over 60 companies in the last 8 years. So it's been a bunch of players, but most of them benefited mostly from the fact that it was like an eye-opener. So they started talking to consumers. They started understanding that maybe there are certain aspects of producers' responsibility and conduct that they could modify. Maybe there are ways of making the food better, and also of ensuring that there are certain responsibility or sensory aspects that they could deliver. So the dialogue, the acknowledgement of the importance of consumers, this is what really matters here. Yeah. And with some products that were brought to the market thanks to Consumer Engagement Labs, I think outcomes would not be possible without EIT Foods project. Like, in Lithuania, we used to work with a group of older consumers who expressed specific desires for products that would not be nutritionally suitable for them or even safe to their teeth. And the company found a practical way of, for example, making granola from buckwheat, so something that is crunchy, that does not need to include sugar in standard form, and is not dangerous to teeth. Or recently in Poland, a large producer, a dairy company, worked with groups of consumers, busy professionals, who were suggesting that, well, they need something for their coffee breaks, something that would be much healthier than chocolate bars or traditional snacks. And again, they came up with not one but 3 lines of functional drinks based on dairy sub-products, which turned out to be a huge market hit this summer in Poland. So basically, office workers were just queuing to buy them in convenience stores.
While producers can gain valuable insights by listening to consumers, the industry still faces the challenge of bringing people fully on board with the new technologies, products, and ingredients entering the market. To do that effectively, it's essential to understand the barriers that still stand in the way.
As a young researcher in consumer psychology, actually, of alternative proteins, definitely there are a lot of variables, especially also psychological construct behind resistance or acceptance of alternative proteins. And we can see from representative studies that there are at least 3 main, let's say, elements in play. First of all, is the trust. Trust is really important. Trust in companies, but even more trust in food safety authorities. And we saw also in Italy what happened with the farmers' lobby called Diretti some months ago, striking against that and trying to, let's say, put some more barriers on cultivated meat. But definitely trust is something that should be developed, both from companies, but also from public institutions. The second element from a perspective is the food technology neophobia. And here education can really play an important role. And we hope we are doing something on this matter. And the third one is this called natural is better heuristic, which means that if you think about going to a supermarket, looks like we are all natural food. Natural, the word nature is always everywhere. And we believe that if a food is natural, it means that it's automatically healthier, more trustworthy, and tastier sometimes even. And so there is a lot to do to educate people and to make them aware of our own bias and the risks that we have on this matter.
When it comes to addressing the challenges of the global food system, trust is essential not only for consumers, but for all the different players at all levels of the food system.
Think of innovators as risk takers. On the other way around, innovators think of policymakers as bureaucracy. So putting them on one table and providing very quick actions so they can sit. This is not something for wider consumer awareness. We are discussing about innovators and policymakers where the trustability is crucial to start something innovating for the future of food. And at the end, consumers needs to get the best of it and safest of it. So definitely trustability.
It can sometimes be tempting to focus just on the global networks which have the benefit of scale on their side. However, could local and regional networks play a vital role in this transition? Pete Russell, founder of Ubi, thinks so. His e-commerce company connects small farms and food hubs with local customers to deliver fresh, seasonal produce without the need for supermarkets.
In terms of health, what it means is that people are able to access food that is just much healthier for them. And one of the main reasons for that is just it's way fresher. And so when you look at nutrient density in food, a lot of it has got to do with the time between harvest to consumption. And so what we're able to do is facilitate super healthy food in that it's often been harvested the day before or even the day of delivery to the kitchen. So that's a huge one in terms of health. But we're also working on facilitating is the price and convenience factor. I mean, the issue with demand is that everyone wants better food, fresher food, more flavors in food, but ultimately it comes down to price and convenience. Am I willing to pay for it or am I willing to go out of my way for it? That's where it's like, I want it, but I'm not going to have it. I'm going to go to the supermarket instead because it gives me the price and convenience. So what we're really focused on is solving the price and convenience problem. And the convenience problem is solved now within the regions that farms and food hubs are running on Ubi. It's the shop on your phone delivered to your door. It's the farmer themselves often that deliver the food right to your doorstep. So they got their grubby mitts knocking on the door. They're handing the food over and going, there you are, love. And it's a real connection, just like you would have at a farmer's market, but you're on your own doorstep. And so the convenience factor is solved, but at the moment it's solved in patches in certain parts of the country where these farm operations are happening. And so we need to solve that convenience problem more contiguously across the whole population. The price factor is also solved, again, in patches. And the reason the price factor is solved is because when the farm handles its own supply chain from the gate to the plate, they are collecting the margin that would otherwise go to distributors and wholesalers and retailers. And therefore, they're getting 100% of the retail value of their food. They're putting more work in to get it to you, but they don't have to sell it for as much as a retailer would need to sell it to cover all of those overhead costs between the gate and the plate. And so what we're finding is that when people are buying direct from the farms or direct from local food hubs, where the operating costs are really low and the supply chain costs are really low, it's very price competitive. So that's what we're working on. The final part that we need to focus on is awareness, and that's driving the awareness to the people who want the food like that, but they don't know they can get it.
And where does this all leave us? We asked people what they would like to see happen towards creating a healthier, more nutritious food future.
I would like to be very pragmatic here. Sometimes we see a lot of revolutionary approaches saying, okay, we need to stop eating meat, stop eating animal products, or some other side, they say, yeah, no, we cannot accept alternative proteins, make plant-based burgers, for instance. So my perspective is a little bit more pragmatic, and we need both. Maybe in the long-term distance, talk about centuries, maybe we can move to just non-animal, conventional animal products at the moment. But we need both, and we need a diversified system. And we always listen about you need to diversify your business when you're to bank. Anytime that you try to diversify, and we're like, why we cannot also try to follow the diversification approach in food? And so I guess that's what my ideal world would like, to have, let's say, consumers with the freedom and the right, to make their own choice.
Yeah, I agree. I would like to see consumers. I would like to see that the choices for it's easy to make a choice for consumer, and that like a food choice that choice is healthy, that it's sustainably made, that it is good for the planet and good for the animals. And I would really like to see that those choices are very easy and natural for consumers to make. And I think, again, alternative proteins are a great way to do that.
Difficult question. Today, I was watching one of the digitalization of farming concepts, and I was thinking, okay, what will that be in 20 years from now? We didn't expect it 21st century to be the fastest moving century of digitalization, of era of digitalization, but definitely. If we think of food, it has to have a nutritional value because our organisms need to have all the ingredients necessary for their survival. Nutritional, well-balanced diets are the crucial moment. If that in 20 years from now, it's done in one day, we are fast moving forward. If it's done in 3 days, then it's a lacking process. But I'm pretty much sure that it will come a possibility to choose your meal in one day and choose the well-balanced diet in one day so you can have a nutritious and safe food on the plate for every people on the planet.
Well, apart from the basics, so ensuring environmentally sustainable production of food, that's what we've covered. I would say one new topic, something that will be important for the consumer of the future is, well, I'm not sure if there are many publications about this in the context of food industry, but in online markets, you talk a lot about hyper-personalization. But it's more about hyper-personalization of communication. You can get commercials that are designed just for one consumer. But with hyper personalization in food sector, you could think about the food that you like, and you are different from any other person in the world. So there might be ways of targeting specific nutritional profiles, microbiome, avoiding allergy factors, and at the same time matching the sensory preferences of consumers. And future technologies, including 3D printing and different types of, sort of home-based setups of food that we consume, would enable this type of nutrition.
That was just a snapshot of the incredible conversations we had at NextBite 2025 in Brussels. Next week, we'll be turning our attention to the challenges and breakthroughs shaping the journey towards net zero food systems, bring on more of the inspiring stories we heard at the event, so stay tuned for that. But for now, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. This has been the Food Fight Podcast. If you'd like to find out more, then check out the EIT Food website at www.eitfood.eu and join the conversation via the hashtag EITFoodFight on our LinkedIn channel at EITFood. And of course, if you haven't already, please hit the follow button so you never miss an episode. Thanks everyone.